Good afternoon, guys. So you are quite literally getting a talking head today. My apologies. Made even worse by the fact that I'm in Dubai right now, and yesterday I went for a haircut and I got a buzz cut in opposed to a fade. And if you have my kind of hair, you'll know exactly what I mean by that and how disappointing it is when you don't quite get what you're expecting. Nevertheless, the show must go on. So here we are today talking about, you've seen the thumbnail, inheritance tax and capital gains tax rises. Now, the Chancellor Rachel Reeves was asked 3 times whether she could rule out raising inheritance tax and capital gains tax. 3 times she would not commit to a yes, a no, or even a maybe. Now, let's be honest. We've been talking about this now for some weeks, and Keir Starmer kind of hinted to the fact that in October, the budget is going to be painful. I've heard the word grim being used, and he has also alluded to the fact that what he's going to ask in October, some of it is going to be borne by those with broader shoulders. So those who have a little bit more in the coffers, if you will. Now, you can only deduce that in order for that to be the case, that inheritance tax and capital gains tax will be at the forefront of those taxes that you would raise because, well, those are the main taxes for people who are maybe either investing, have assets, so on and so forth. And I want to run through an article on Sky because there are some really important points made around how much money this would actually raise. And the fact is, people can still get around this. And people will still get around this, but it will raise some money. And that's ultimately what we're looking for right now, right? We're looking for the government to be able to raise money. And she's in a precarious situation. I kind of feel sorry for her because at the end of the day, the budget is still a good, 6-7 weeks away? You're not going to give away what you're going to do this early on because you've got to explore all of the options. But the thing is, by you not saying yes or no, you're kind of playing your hand anyway, or at least you're allowing the interpretation of what it means. And honestly, because of what we know so far, at least for me, and let me know whether you agree with me or not, I think these 2 taxes are definitely going up. I think her not giving a yes or no is pretty much, yeah, they're going up, but you're going to have to wait until October 30th to find out. And for me, I feel like a little, when you're in school, when you were naughty, you're waiting for your teacher to give you a punishment and you're just waiting and you kind of know what's going to happen, but you're just nervously waiting for it to arrive. I feel like this. I feel exactly like this with what's going on. Anyway, let's jump into the article. So it says here, Chancellor Rachel Reeves refuses to rule out inheritance and capital gains tax rises. It goes on to say here, the Chancellor refused to rule out inheritance and capital gains tax rises after Keir Starmer warned the autumn budget will be painful. She would not answer yes or no 3 times when asked on Wednesday if she could specifically rule out the raising of the 2 taxes in the budget this October. No surprises there. Now, obviously, we've had this conversation about the fact that Labour have made the commitment not to increase national insurance contributions and not to increase income tax and actually VAT as well. So I'll read this segment of the Sky article. Labour repeatedly said during the election campaign and since they would not increase income tax, national insurance and VAT, but avoid answering whether other taxes would rise. Now, those 3, income tax, national insurance contributions, VAT, 42% of the government's tax revenue. So with that being the case, if they keep to their manifesto promise not to, I can't see a world where they don't increase capital gains and inheritance tax. There are some parts in here that I want to read to you in this article, which kind of gives some insights into how much each of these would actually raise. So I'm going to read this segment here. Many in the city have expressed concern about the government lifting the rate of capital gains tax from a maximum of 28% to be in line with the 45% higher rate of tax income. Now, this is for capital gains specifically. It goes on to say a report from the Institute of Fiscal Studies said equalising the 2 would raise £16.7 billion. It's a lot of money, but the question is it enough to do good work, to make a difference? I don't know. I mean, look, it's a lot of money, right? So surely it will go some way towards fixing the problems that we have, whether that be funding more of the NHS, but I do partially remember a tax being increased to fund the NHS about 2-3 years ago. I can't remember it off the top of my head right now. But if this is the case and this is what we need to do, okay, I'll be happy to take the pain in the short term for that, right? But he's going to raise 16.7 billion quid, but it's very, very unpopular. Now, inheritance tax is currently paid at 40% on estates over £325,000. With exceptions, it means that only 5% of deaths are taxed, and often at a much lower rate. The IFS said the government could raise 4 billion extra by closing loopholes in inheritance tax. The question here is, how do they actually do that? So are they going to reduce the residence nil rate band and the nil rate band? So at the moment, everyone gets £500,000. Do they reduce those and increase the tax rate? There's been talk of 54.4%. Do they do both? Do they do one or other? The inheritance tax, you could argue, does kind of target wealthier people. But I want to see, and it's a conversation that is being had more and more in the media now, a tax on assets for anyone over 5 million quid in assets. And it doesn't have to be a 10% tax. It could be as small as a 1 or 2% tax. That's really what I think the majority of society wants to see. What do you want to see? I mean, do you agree? Let me know in the comment section down below. Now, one of the things that is worthwhile noting, I kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier on, with capital gains tax, people can just get around this. People can just not sell their assets, because typically capital gains, you pay that tax when you sell down an investment, an asset of some sort. People could technically decide that I'm not going to sell this asset and basically postpone this capital gain event, right? And the wealthiest of all in society may say, well, actually, you know what? I've got this property. I'll take a loan against the property. And because it's a loan, that isn't taxable. This is how the wealthy use their assets to not pay tax and generate income. So for example, Elon Musk is a prime example, right? When he bought Twitter, he took his Tesla stock and said, this is how much it's worth. I'm going to borrow against this. He didn't sell down necessarily his shares to realize the cash, because that would have been a taxable event. So the wealthy will still be able to get around this with some very, very clever planning. The question is, do you go about changing the tax code so that you can close those kind of loopholes specifically? To say that if you are borrowing against an asset and the asset is over X amount, you have to pay tax on the loan that you've received against said asset. I don't know how that would work in theory, but people can get around the fact that, okay, yeah, equalize capital gains tax to 45%, higher rate tax, okay? And yes, there'll be tiers underneath it, right? Equalize it. I just find another way to get cash out of my assets without me actually selling it down and triggering a taxable event. I mean, it's really quite clever, the things that people can actually do. And I'm sure that we're going to hear more, and this will become more of a debate. I think these things that they're going to change in October, it's going to be painful. It's not going to be good news. I think we're going to have to kind of lump it, really, because what are we going to do about it? What are we actually going to do about it? I think a larger and wider, broader view of the tax code needs to be taken a look at. Let me know what you think of this in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed the talking head and the buzz cut. Catch you later on. Cheers.